What's up, everybody? This is Gallant, and you know I got soul.
All right, you know I got soul. Very excited to be here with Gallant, and let me tell you, Gallant, right off the bat, you're one of our favorite new R&B artists. So it's kind of surprising that we haven't actually had a chance to interview you yet. So
yeah, that's what I was saying.
That's
what I was saying. You're one of my favorite websites. So,
absolutely.
It was crazy to actually be able to sit down and put a face to the whole brand.
For sure. So let's get started here. What we like to do when we interview artists is to ask them what was an R&B album that influenced them growing up. I know you're from Maryland.
Oh yeah.
Would you say Drew Hill, Mario?
Definitely, definitely those guys. But in terms of albums, I mean, damn. I would say it's in between like D'Angelo, Voodoo, and weirdly like Donnell Jones' Journey of a Gemini.
Oh wow.
You know, like I think it came out in like 2005.
Yeah.
And I was still trying to get my voice sounding all right, and so I used that Donnell Jones album to really try and practice and make it sound like it was something that you could listen to instead of something that you cover your ears to hear. You know?
Right. It's actually surprising that you mentioned Voodoo as one of your favorites. We talk to artists all the time, and they're like bipolar about the album. Some love it and some hate it because it was so experimental.
Yeah, but I mean, it set the tone for a lot of things, you know, and that whole era, the whole neo soul jam type experience, you know, I feel like was just something that people had never heard before.
Yeah.
So you got to give it props.
Yeah. And then that Donnell Jones project, that's one of my favorites too.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a weird deep cut because it's a little bit later.
Yep.
In his stuff, but yeah, he still got it. He proved it with that one.
Yeah, I was just listening to Portrait of a Woman earlier today. So.
Oh, that's crazy.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your music here. You dropped a new single, Sleep on It.
Yep.
And what I love about that record, it kind of goes back to that early 2000s sound, and you delivered. That's a sound that we've been missing for a long time. So just talk about how that song came together for you.
I mean, bro, dead ass. Like I was sitting on my couch, I was watching DuckTales, the like new 2019 DuckTales, and for some reason, like I had maybe like 2 or 3 more songs that I needed to fill in on the album Sweet Insomnia, and I had this idea of like, you don't make forever seem so permanent. No need to sleep on it. Sleep on it. It's just nervous, but your body's journey other day. I didn't really know the lyrics to it yet, but I wanted it to be kind of like a slow jam, almost wedding song type of vibe.
Right.
But I wanted the lyrics to just kind of dig a little bit deeper to the more bittersweet themes that I was trying to experiment with on the album as a whole.
Right.
So I took it over to my boy Stent's house. He lived like 10 minutes away, still lives 10 minutes away. Jeff Giddy came over. He's a brilliant producer. We had this writer, Boy Matthews, come through, and we just jammed on it for like a day. And I feel like sometimes that works from the voice note thing to wax, and most of the time it's whack, and you're like, oh, it actually didn't work as an idea. But somehow at the end of the day, we had Sleep on It in its entirety, and it was surreal for me to listen to it back and realize that I had made one of my childhood dreams come true by making a song that sounded like that.
Yeah. And I think it's funny, we were just talking off camera, 10 years ago, Neil had a song called Mad, where he said, don't go to bed mad. Yeah. And here you are saying sleep on it.
'Cause I don't want to go to bed. Yeah, that was crazy. that whole that was on the
Year of the Gentleman.
Oh, that was on Year of the Gentleman.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
2008.
Those first 3 albums were crazy for Neil. That's wild.
Hilarious. Yeah. But let's talk about the sound of that song. Like I said, early 2000s, and I feel like we're at a time in R&B where you're allowed to make any type of record you want. There was a time in R&B where you had to follow a certain lane, but you have the freedom now to do whatever you want. Is that how you feel as well?
Absolutely. I feel like when I was first putting my music on the internet, around the time that you started covering everything that I was doing, it was people were like afraid of the R&B label because it still meant contemporary mainstream radio R&B, and people were trying to subvert all those stereotypes and trying to hammer in the fact that they were trying to present a more kind of unique image of what R&B sounded like. So that's why we had the alternative R&B label for so long.
Yeah.
And now I just feel like, that label's been embraced by the mainstream in such a beautiful way because people can, people are doing so many different shades of R&B, even people who aren't traditionally quote unquote R&B artists, and that's really allowed the whole genre to explode. And so R&B is a badge of pride, I think, in 2019, and in the 20s, I think it's going to continue to be.
Absolutely. Now, you gave tribute to Ginuwine by putting him in the music video. Just
Oh,
talk about
yeah,
that. That
that
surprised a lot of fans.
that was crazy. I mean, Ginuwine is like, he's the greatest of all time. He's from Maryland,
Yeah.
up in PG County. I'm from Howard County, so I hit him up on the DMs. I was like, yo, I have this song, Sleep on It, inspired by what you did with the So Anxious era and that whole sound that you helped bring to the forefront. And to my surprise, he responded in a really positive way, and we flew him out. He was such a G on set. It was crazy to just kind of shoot the shit with him. And honestly, we had that exact same conversation about R&B music too. And just to see him in such a positive headspace where everything's headed, and to agree to star in in my fucking music video, that just was fucking, it was crazy to me. It was such an honor.
Absolutely. And you dropped a couple more records leading up to your album, and a lot of them have different types of sound, Compromise, Sharpest Edges, Crimes. As an artist, when you're creating a project, is it tough for you to have to figure out what direction you want to go in? Because it doesn't seem like you have that mindset. You just want to create what you want to make.
Yeah, it's tough. I think with this album specifically, I wanted like 3 different versions of it, basically. I started like an album called like Effigy right after Ology came out, like that same kind of year. And it just didn't feel right. It felt too phoned in. Because I wrote Ology not really expecting to put it, I expected to put it out, but I didn't really expect that many people to hear it, really. It was kind of just something that I did for me, just to make kind of like a playlist of music that I wanted to hear that I couldn't find anywhere else, So it took me a while to find purpose with an album, and so when I really started Sweet Insomnia the way it is now, I think like last November, there were some songs that kind of were a little bit on the outskirts. I knew I wanted to do an experimental electronic sound, but not in an ambient way. I wanted to do it more in like a dusty old synths that you would find underneath, your childhood bedroom or something, which made me think of late 80s, early 90s. But then I also wanted to take a more 2000s approach to songwriting, which led me to like the big like group vocals on everything. And then for some reason I had listened to a bunch of like those YouTube channels, the like music to relax, study, chill, whatever too, with the raccoon dude who's like sitting on the bed studying. And I realized that I could hear that kind of cowboy bebop vibe with a rap verse on top, but I didn't really hear it with R&B vocals. So I kind of took those 3 ingredients, sat with my boy Stint, and we just tried to kind of make it all as cohesive as possible. So there are some songs like with those singles that hit at different kind of points, but I feel like the album as a whole hopefully kind of blends it all into a nice soup.
Right, and I think it's interesting. Your fan base has followed you, and they've rocked with you. Even with these different sounds, I think it's still very Gallant, no matter what you do with it. Now, talk about the project. You touched on it a little bit, the new album, Sweet Insomnia. Went through a couple of phases of it, and you're coming off a Grammy-nominated album, so what's the mindset for this?
I mean, I just... it took me a while to feel right about it. Like I always like to make stuff that feels like it's for me first and foremost. So if I can't like sit and listen to a song over and over and be like, oh, this is tight, then it just doesn't seem like it's right. So I would never phone something in. But I also wanted to try new things. So, there are a lot more stories on the album. The whole thing just really feels like my childhood. The intro track is called 410. That was my area code growing up in Columbia, Maryland. I want to keep it really short, concise, but at the same time, not have it feel truncated, not have it feel too short, so there are 13 tracks, a few short tracks on it. And I really wanted to just expand on the idea that I had coming off of this song that I wrote last year called Doesn't Matter, which is basically just the bittersweetness of everything. So it was really hard for me to sleep during the process. I think I would go to a session from like 1 to 5 or 6, come home 7 to 4 a.m. I'd make the vocals as tight as I possibly could. Then I have like a little video game room in my house, so I'd play like Persona 5 from like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. to like 7, 8 a.m. And then I go to bed, then I wake up at noon. So it was hard for me to break out of that, but I feel like it inspired me to add some kind of bendness to the synths to make them a little bit detuned, and the kicks are a little bit lazy, and everything just feels kind of like you're walking in a dream, except you're awake, so you're stuck awake. And then lyrically, everything is bittersweet. So the title "Sweet Insomnia" just popped into my head and seemed like it was the best way to describe that whole process and the whole experience.
Nice. Now, Gallant, like I mentioned, you're one of our favorites, one of our favorite new artists, and we looked at our yearly countdown. We do it every year at the end of the year, just our favorite R&B songs, and you've appeared on the list pretty much every year since like 2015.
Which is crazy. Thank you.
So let me ask you this: what do you think has made us gravitate towards your music?
Oh man, I don't know, but I'm really honored that you guys have. I think one of the first things that I saw you guys cover was some of my most just off the cuff, experimental, ambient, lo-fi, how to dress well inspired vibes. So I hope it's just the weirdness of everything that made you guys gravitate towards it. But whatever it was, I just really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we're gonna give you something here. I want you to take a look at this.
Oh shit! Thank you.
If you want to read it out loud. This is from 7 years ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
This is great, yeah.
Yeah,
this is amazing.
Yeah, so this is an
and
email.
I got the signature in the bottom
exactly.
too.
So this is an email submission that you sent to us back in 2012.
That's crazy.
When you were first starting out, sent us your music, and of course we posted it, so we get credit for that. But
this
just take me back to those early days. That was just you submitting the music. That wasn't a team. That wasn't a publicist. That was just yourself. So
yeah, I'm
take me back to those days.
I'm surprised that that I have my name in it, because around this time I had like a moniker.
Right.
And just like a bunch of fake email accounts with different names, and
wow.
I'd pretend to be my own publicist, and I'd send it out and be like, yo, check out, this song. And this is crazy. This is Saturday, December 1st, 2012 at 3:54 a.m.
Wow.
Of course. It says, hey, Tom, big fan of YouKnowIGotSoul. I'm a singer-songwriter originally from Baltimore, now living in Los Angeles. This video we just released has been I had to say we to make it seem more professional. This video we just released has been getting a bunch of great reviews, and I'd love it if you took a listen. And then I got a YouTube link that I'm sure doesn't click to anything anymore. And I say, best Gallant. I got my @SoGallant, SoGallant.com. That's crazy.
Yeah.
2012, wow.
Yeah. So take me back to those early beginnings, submitting music to blogs, which, blogs aren't what they used to be, but back
It's
in
not,
the day,
yeah.
that was what it was about.
Yeah, blogs were everything. Like, that's how I found all my new music, I guess this was right when I decided that I had enough in New York. I was at NYU in like an individualized study program. I decided I needed to change the scenery. It wasn't really happening. And I was living in Los Angeles in North Hollywood on a mattress on the floor. And I would just spend all the late nights, 3:54 a.m., just sending a bunch of emails to the blogs that I was fucking with at the time, and hoping that they would fuck with me. And that's crazy that you found this.
Right.
That's wild.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's insane.
And a lot of artists around that time were submitting music to blogs. What do you think you did differently to stand out amongst that crowd? Because you've made it amongst many that haven't, millions that are still trying, right?
That's a trippy question. I actually don't know.
Right.
I think I don't know, man. It's I'm just lucky that people responded, and
right.
I feel like I really like. I don't know, man.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I definitely this was probably one of like a million different emails I had sent
right.
to Tom. I was probably like, hey Tom, just following up. Hey Tom, just wanted to check back in. But Hype Machine, the whole blogosphere was such a crazy time. And
right.
I guess I was just lucky enough to be able to coast it. A lot of people do it a lot quicker too. So
right.
It was just one of those things.
Right. And here you are now. And lastly, I just got to ask, during this period when you were making your come up to where you are now, were there times that you felt like you needed to, gear towards what was trendy? Because you've kind of just been doing your own thing for the longest time, but there's always that tendency to want to do something that's a little more trendy, turn up music. Was that ever a time for you?
The pressure was there for sure, but it's not like I just could never do something that I don't like. Right. I think so. That's what I think has always stopped. Like if I can't listen to it over and over again, it's just not gonna exist. So I guess there's a chance that maybe what's trendy will line up with that, but maybe not, you know. But I would just never phone anything in. I would never make any kind of music that didn't speak to my soul, you know.
Cool. Gallant, that's all that we've got for you. Anything you'd like to add?
Oh, man. I still can't believe you guys dug this up. That's crazy. That's really crazy. 2012, too.
Yeah.
That's insane. Man, I guess just thank you guys for rocking with me for as long as you have.
Absolutely.
And I hope to see you next year on the headline run for Sweet Insomnia.
Absolutely. We'll be there.